So today we're going to learn how to do vector addition. Basically what we're going to do is to have two vectors that we're going to be adding them together. Vector A, 10 newtons at 20 degrees, and vector B, 8 newtons at 60 degrees. The first thing that you can do is draw your vectors. So we're going to have the y and the x-axis, and I will have vector A at 20 degrees, 10 newtons, I'm going to call this A, and vector B, 8 newtons at 60 degrees. As you can see, each of these vectors is going to have a component in x and a component in y. A component in x for B and a component in y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to calculate the components. The first thing to do, we're going to calculate the component for x in the case of A. 10 newtons multiplied by the cosine of 20. Remember that the cosine is going to be relating the hypotenuse and the adjacent. So the angle in this case is with respect to the x-axis. That means that the adjacent side is going to be x. So 10 would be our hypotenuse. So 10 multiplied by the cosine of 20 is 10 newtons multiplied by 0.9397. Remember to always keep checking with your calculator that you're getting the correct answer. Otherwise, you need to change the function or the mode if you're working with radians instead of degrees. So the answer of this multiplication is 9.39 newtons. This means that this vector actually reaches the 9.39 newton value for the x-axis. Then we find the value for y, and I'm going to use the opposite side. That means I'm going to be using the sine. 10 newtons multiplied by the sine of 20, that will be 10 newtons multiplied by 0.3420, and I will obtain the value for AY, 3.42 newtons. So this vector A is showing me a value for Y of 3.42 newtons. The next thing to do is find the components for Bx and for By. The value for Bx, since we are referring to the same type of angle with respect to x, that is 60 in this case for B, I will be multiplying 8 newtons times the cosine of 60. That brings me to 8 newtons times 0.5, and the answer would be 4 newtons. I will continue then finding the value for By. So By, remember that By is the component in y of the vector B. That will be 8 newtons times the sine of 60. That brings me to 8 newtons multiplied by 0.8660, and then the answer will be 6.9 newtons. This means that the distance from the tip of B in the y direction is going to be 6.9 newtons. Now we are adding these values. What I'm going to do is I made like a little table here to illustrate how we can do the addition. We can add the two values for x and then the two values for y. So the value for x, I am going to fill up this table. The value for x is 9.39, and the value for y is 3.42. In the case of B, Bx is 4, and I'm going to write down the value for By, 6.9 newtons. What I'm going to do next is just add these values. So it's going to be 9.39 times plus 4. That will be 13.39. And 3.42 plus 6.9 is a value 10.32. Notice that this is actually what are going to be the values for my resultant. So what this means is that I will have a value for the resultant that goes towards the right, 13.39 newtons in x, and goes up 10.32. That will be something that will be indicated like that. What I now need to show is what is going to be the angle and the actual value. Because what I did was add the value for A, x, and Bx. So